Again, this year I have the honor of presenting IANGEL's 2021 Amel Zanoun Zouani Rights and Leadership Award to our second awardee, Irma Herrera. Awardees of the Rights and Leadership Award must have exhibited courage in overcoming injustice, opened doors to women that were previously closed to them, and shown dedication towards social justice. Irma has done all of these things through her work as a civil rights attorney, her role as the executive director of Equal Rights Advocates, her journalism, and most recently her play, Why Would I Mispronounce My Own Name? IANGEL is proud to honor her with the 2021 Rights and Leadership Award. Before I formally present the award to you, Irma, I would like to take some time talking with you, and I know you first wanted to say a few words. So why don't you start out saying a few words, and then we can turn to your career and your background.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And it is such an honor to share this award with Julianne. And wow, what amazing work she does against such great odds. And it's just wonderful to see the girls that are being trained and also to see the interns at IANGEL. There's so much, it fills me with more hope for what's possible in the future. So I'm very pleased. I wouldn't be here but for the support of my community. That includes my family, the kids I went to with segregated parochial school, through law school, my co-counsel, my co-workers. The list is endless because it does take a village. So thank you so much. And I would urge everyone who dedicates himself to working for equality, whether it's as an avocation or their full-time job, to continue that work to honor all these folks like Amel and Julianne who have been tortured, who have made enormous sacrifices, and in many instances lost their lives in order to advance equality. So we do stand in the shoulders of giants, and we must continue this work. And we are winning, even though it is a very hard place we find ourselves in today. We really are winning. So I'd like to say that a few weeks back or a few months ago, I get an email from Nancy Newman saying I was to receive this award. And I was so surprised and pleased because I knew nothing about the fact that anyone had nominated. And it was my dear friend, Madeline Chun, who is also a lawyer at Hanson Bridget and a longtime supporter of IANGEL. And she orchestrated behind the scenes to get a bunch of nominations. When I was still at Equal Rights Advocates, I would occasionally meet with Nancy, who had this idea to harness the power of pro bono attorneys to advance women's equality, not just in this country, but elsewhere. And I thought it was a great idea. I just didn't have the bandwidth to know how I could be of help to her. But she persisted. And she created IANGEL, and it is just wonderful to see the fruits of the labor of the board of directors, the volunteers, the interns from all over the world who are supporting folks like Julianne and many other organizations we didn't hear about tonight. So thank you so much, and it is such an honor to be here with you all tonight.
Thank you so much for those comments. Well, you yourself are quite inspiring. And when I looked over the nominations and everything you've done in your life, I was just astounded. And I got the impression reading over, and I was trying to figure out, because we have a short time, where to start, but to really understand your mission, and we need to know about your background and where you came from, your family, and where you grew up.
Well, I grew up in rural Texas in a community of 18,000 people in a totally segregated environment. I went to a segregated parochial school. But the beauty of that was that we were all, in a sense, equals. We came from the same community. We had loving and supportive parents. We had teachers who were nuns from the Philippines who tried to beat the Spanish out of us. But our parents were very proud of our bicultural roots. And so I'm lucky that I grew up speaking Spanish. I got tremendous support from the kids I grew up with. I was an avid reader as a kid. I loved learning, and I had the good fortune of being able to go to college where lots of kids in my community didn't. We didn't have a shortage of talent and smarts. What we had was a shortage of opportunity. But I was able to go to college, and thanks to affirmative action, to become a lawyer. And I felt passionate from a very early age that I wanted to work for justice, that I saw lots of things that were unfair in my community. I was inspired by the Black civil rights movement. And I had the good fortune of being able to dedicate most of my career to public interest law. And I practiced more than 3 decades, eventually leaving. When I left Equal Rights Advocates, I thought I was taking a year off, but that's been 11 years. And I found a new calling, and that was storytelling, and became a playwright, wrote a play, got it on stage. And my play is very much about all the same issues I care about, discrimination against people. And I'm simply using a different vehicle to explore the same issues of why it's so important to expand opportunities rather than limit people's vision of where they can be and what they can do in the world.
And you came from a community where you went beyond the expectations, isn't that right?
That's true. I think that there weren't very great expectations for most Mexican American kids. Um, but some of us did go to college. Now, a lot of kids who stayed there and who didn't go to college have also had successful and meaningful lives and are active in their community. But yeah, I think I may have had two Mexican American teachers in my whole career as a high school student. And certainly, I had one Mexican American teacher, Mrs. J.G. Lopez, when I was in elementary school. The rest were all nuns from the Philippines and a few nuns also from Spain. But yeah, and it reminds me of the importance of representation. It's really hard to envision being something different than what you see in your community. And most of our parents were laborers or had trades. Few people from the Mexican American community had gone to college. And part of it has to do with the fact that there were no colleges in that part of South Texas. And I'm reminded that many people say, well, my grandparents or great grandparents came here as immigrants and they raised themselves by their bootstraps. They didn't have two coins to rub together, and yet they went to college. But maybe they lived in New York City or in Chicago and they walked past Columbia or some other university when there are no schools in your community where you could get higher education. It's really hard for people to envision that that's in their future.
Right. And as you advanced through school, was it difficult to hold on to your cultural identity?
Not for me. And I think it's because I always retained close ties with my community. I still, except for COVID, I used to go back to South Texas a couple times a year. I'm still friends with the kids I knew since kindergarten. And I've just always been very proud of the fact that I'm Chicana. I'm very happy that my parents inculcated in us the desire to keep speaking our language, and being bilingual has been a real asset in my career because I've been able to use those skills to serve clients and to have a better understanding of the needs of the Latino community, and of course of other communities that grow up or that live in conditions where we haven't had opportunities that many people take for granted.
Um, so going back to the time that you were at ERA and going to the work that you did for women's rights, um, have you seen advances in women's rights and in the status of women? And what work do you feel needs to be done? Where should we focus our efforts?
Oh goodness, I have seen so many advancements. And one of the greatest joys in my work at ERA is to maintain ties, friendships, relationships with the women who came to ERA to work, sometimes as high school kids, as volunteers, as undergrads, as law students, later as lawyers, and to see where they have gone in their careers. Among them are law professors, entrepreneurs, judges, women who work specifically in the political arena to elect other women to public office, women who are leading major departments and agencies here in California and other parts of the country. So those are huge changes. When you look, for example, at the California Supreme Court, when I moved to California, the Supreme Court was all white. I think Rose Bird was already on the court and became the Chief Justice. But today, the court is so much more reflective of California. The Biden administration has many women in positions of great responsibility and authority, as well as a lot of people of color. So I certainly see that we have made a lot of advancements, but we still have a ways to go. The biggest challenge I feel is that low-income children do not have opportunities to really use their minds in the ways that they should have, because we have de-invested. We are not investing in public education, and most low-income families, that's where their kids are going to school. And our schools have become so much, well, very resegregated. Those are huge problems. So as I said before, it isn't that there's a shortage of talent. We have so many smart young men and women who just don't ever get the chance to bring into the world all of their talent and ability. So I think we have to really work to change policies in this country to provide funding for basic public services. We have to work, things that Nancy mentioned before. Our democracy really is being threatened. We have all kinds of gerrymandering we're going to be expecting, and voter disenfranchisement, because I think there are segments of society that do feel really threatened with the growth of the browning of America. But change is inevitable, and I'm inspired by all the change. Today, law schools, medical schools, vet schools, in many instances, women are the majority. When I went to law school, we were maybe 20%. So there are many, many changes, but that is not to say we don't have huge challenges. We do. And we saw that in COVID. The most affected workers, of course, are the front line essential workers, who are for the most part Black and brown people. But women at all levels have taken tremendous hits because of COVID, because their responsibility is not just to their jobs, if they were able to keep their jobs and do their jobs, but they have family members. And we saw the ravages of COVID in the Latino and Black community in particular. For the first time since World War II, the lifespan of Americans has declined, with the biggest decline of 3 years among Latinos, and African Americans, I think 2.8 years, and among white people in this country, it was maybe like 1.5 years. It's all really tragic. And we've got to respect science. We've got to fund essential needs for our families to be able to support each other and support our children so that they can succeed.
I would agree with all of that. And I recently, I was looking at the statistics for women in law, and women start out around 54% now at law schools, but of practicing attorneys were only 37%. So there are barriers still. So we only have a minute or two left, and I just want to ask you a personal question. Are you currently working on anything, and what are your plans for the future?
Well, I am always updating my play, even though the name remains the same. Why would I mispronounce my own name? The material changes to keep up with the challenges we face as a society. So I've now incorporated information about the murder of the Latinos at the Walmart in El Paso, the rise in white supremacy, the murder of George Floyd, the rise in Asian hate crimes. And I'm looking forward to performing on stage again or on Zoom in the not too distant future. And I have been performing for colleges, for law firms, and it's been really, really gratifying.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, and now it's time to present you formally with the award, Irma. Here is the award, and I will make sure that it gets to you. You're a lot closer than the Congo, so it'll be a swift delivery. Congratulations, and thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and everyone at iAngel. And thank you all for joining us this evening from all parts of the globe.
Yeah, thanks to both of you. Thanks so much, Irma and Rebecca, and congrats so much to you, Irma, on this very well-deserved award. I can't wait to see your play, hopefully in person again soon.